First you tell us that it is manly to keep your word. Alright, if you are a man, you keep your word. And now all that the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well then, show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well then, stick to your word. And let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man, you're a worm, you're afraid of us, you're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground, that we will match you and we will override you. And if that's what you're afraid of us, then tell us that just what you're afraid of. But don't keep hiding it from us and holding this up to us, and every time we ask you for something, you give us a little bit of something, and it's all tokenism. We don't want tokenism. And there are most black men in this world that don't want charity.
See, Negroes are actually fighting for equality with the white man's dog. You may say, why? Well, when they say we want open housing, they still not getting nothing. The dog ain't got. The dog sleeps in the house with white people, in the bed, many of them. And Negroes want to ride on the best transportation up front with the white people. The dogs do better than that. He ride right in the front seat. I see him when the sun's shining. Dogs ride right in the front seat of the car. And Negroes, they want to eat the white man restaurant and this and that. Still, the dogs eat out the same plate. I see this. So in reality, the Negro's not fighting for equality with the white man. He's fighting for equality with the white man's dog. To be equal with the man, he needs some airports. He needs some train stations, some television companies, some water plants. He needs some farmland.
It's going to be hard to get, though, isn't it?
And not if he has some land of his own.
He has some land.
And if the white man gave him justice and repaid him for building up this country and working for 300.
You said that your people have been fighting for 400 years.
Man, your people's too.
So I just want you to explain what you mean by that.
You know what I'm talking about. Y'all all know what I'm talking about, man. Don't sit up here and try to bait and not know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what the fuck I talk about when I say these things. Your people too.
Explain it. Not everybody knows what you're talking about.
Radio Raheem, I don't have to explain what's understood, man. You know what I mean by that. You know what I say about that. I ain't got to go further. And if anybody don't understand that, then God be with them. Go look up the history. Go look up the history. Shit, don't everybody believe in Google? Go Google that shit. See what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, man. You know what I dare you to sit up there and say is explain. You know what I'm talking about, man. He's fighting people. You know we've been fighting 400 and still fighting to this day. To this day. To this day.
You say that slavery has nothing to do with you and slavery was back there. And I ask you the question then, what language do you speak? When did you learn that language? Was that the language African people were speaking when we were taken into slavery? What kind of food do you eat? You say soul food? Was that the food of African people? What kind of clothes are we wearing? Were these the clothes of African people? What kind of names do we respond to? Why is it that African names sound strange to us now? What kind of God do you worship? Was this the God you were praying to before you were brought to these shores? Was this the religion you had before you were brought to these shores?
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate, you should ask yourself who taught you to hate being what God gave you.
You don't have enough time on this planet to be wasting your time with foolish Negroes.
That's right.
Who still want to be mental and psychological slaves. We are no different than yesterday. It's a mental plantation now. You're runaway slaves. You ran off of a big plantation. It's called United States of America. It's no different than the plantation of yesterday and the plantation of today. It's the same. We've only been out of this thing for 150 years. You think we're going to be free after they worked on us for 400 years? It's mental now. It's mental slavery now. The chains and the shackles are not there, but they're still on the brain right now. And that's what we got to take off.
So when you talk about celebrating Juneteenth, commemorates that, you know, we've been free, we're no longer slaves. Do your history. Go into the Bible. Find out if you truly not a slave anymore. We very much still slaves, you know. We celebrate things unknowingly of the real reason on why we're celebrating it. So when Abraham Lincoln, he signed Emancipation Proclamation and abolished slavery, people have to understand slavery never ended. Physically, the chains came off, okay? Physically, we came up out the cornfields. We came out of picking cotton, okay, over time. But you're still very well a slave working the plantation every single day. You go and punch that clock every single day. We on the bottom of every single job. With an exception, you get a couple of melanated colored people in supervisor positions, but 9 times out of 10, most of them people be coons. But needless to say, we still very much still slaves. Mentally, in our mind, we're slaves. We walk around still celebrating holidays that was created by our oppressors, by our colonizers, and told us that we need to celebrate these things, not even understanding the things that we celebrate. That's still very much enslavement. We still dress like our oppressors, right? We still eat just like our oppressors. We still think just like our oppressors. We still worshiping. Majority of the people is still worshiping a white Jesus, which was given to you by your oppressor. You don't speak your own language. You don't know your nationality. You don't have your own land. You're still stuck in Christianity, being taught lies, and you're believing it. Still not proving things. We still haven't been paid for our ancestors building America. In order not to be a slave, you will have been paid for the work that you have done, which we have not been paid, which is still proof that we are still slaves today. We still living here in America. Where's our own land? Why are we not back in our homeland? In Jerusalem, why are we not back at home? Because we're still very much slaves. We are prisoner of wars, and which make it worse when you go into the definition of a prisoner of war. A prisoner of war is the confinement of enemies, combatants, to prevent them from fighting again. And our people have been broken down and stripped in such a way where, as a whole, we are not fighting anymore. We are not even fighting anymore. We don't even think for a second to use our own brain. We're still being conditioned and operated by what our oppressor is telling us. We're very much still slaves, okay? Once the mind get delivered from captivity, then yeah, you've broken the bondage off of your mind. If you celebrating Juneteenth, you still very much a slave. You celebrating these holidays, you still very much a slave. You still eating the slave foods that was given to us in captivity. You still very much a slave. We have to understand, just because you physically are not in chains does not mean you are not a slave until you break them chains off of your mind. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 48. Therefore, in hunger and thirst, in nakedness, in dire poverty, you will serve the enemy the Lord sends against you. He will put an iron yoke on your neck until he has destroyed you. Okay, so the iron yoke has been removed, but the mind is destroyed. We still very much slaves. And we have to understand, saved is to be delivered from the hands of our enemies and all those that hate us. So we have to begin to renew our mind and pull down the chains and strongholds off of our mind. Free your mind from slavery. Stop begging for equality. The Most High, he did not create the children of Israel to be equal to any other nations. That's Deuteronomy 7 and 6. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God has chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. So we'll never be equal to these nations. Stop asking for equality because you're not equal to them. You're above them anyways. But begin to renew your mind and strip off everything that's been given to you by your oppressors. So understand, we very much still slaves. Mentally, we're enslaved, and we'll be slaves until The Most High sent His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, back to deliver us and to free us and to put us back in our own land and to build us up and to build us back up. And as I always tell y'all, return back to the Most High. Begin to keep His law. You need to repent. Begin to keep His law, statutes, and commandments. Shalom.